My name is Mark. I once believed I knew the very essence of that name, that it embodied purpose, precision, love. I was an architect, not just of structures, but of a life built meticulously, block by beautiful block, with Sarah. My Sarah. She was my muse, my partner, the vibrant splash of color in my perfectly ordered blueprints. Together, we weren't just building a future, we were designing it, every detail considered, every angle optimized for happiness. Our dream home, a modern marvel of glass and steel and warm, inviting wood, stood as the ultimate testament to our bond. I poured my soul into its creation, the very lines of its existence echoing the devotion I felt for her. She, an interior designer of exquisite taste, then filled that shell with life, with art, with beauty, making it our sanctuary, our private monument to a seemingly unbreakable love. It was more than a house. It was the physical embodiment of our shared dream, a dream I had spent years, decades crafting. Then came David. The name still tastes like ash on my tongue. David was her charming business partner, a man whose smile I had mistakenly found harmless, whose laughter I had accepted as genuine camaraderie. The discovery wasn't a sudden, explosive revelation. It was a slow, agonizing unraveling, like a perfectly tied knot loosening thread by agonizing thread until the whole structure collapses. I found the emails first, then the hidden phone, then the photographs. Not a drunken mistake, not a momentary lapse. This was a calculated, years-long affair. Years. While I was meticulously designing our future, she was meticulously dismantling it, piece by piece, in the shadows of my devotion. The betrayal didn't ignite a furious rage within me. It left me cold, methodical, precise. An architect's mind doesn't succumb to chaos. It seeks order, even in devastation. It seeks justice, even in silence. Sarah's greatest pride wasn't just her beauty or her talent. It was her impeccable image, her sophisticated façade, her carefully curated perfection. That was the vulnerability I would target. My mind, so accustomed to structural integrity, immediately began to see the house not as our sanctuary, but as a weapon. The decision was clear, chillingly so. My revenge wouldn't be loud, wouldn't be violent. It would be an architectural masterpiece of psychological warfare. I wouldn't burn down our home. I would make it betray her. I would make it scream her secrets, not with fire, but with form. I revisited my old blueprints, the very lines I had drawn with love, now etched with a new, colder purpose. I saw the house not as fixed, but as fluid, capable of transformation, of revelation. It was already built, yes, but an architect knows that even a finished structure holds secrets, hidden potentials. The first phase was subtle, almost imperceptible. I called it the whispering walls. I had always been fascinated by acoustics, by how sound travels, resonates, distorts. During the initial build, I had experimented with certain cavity walls in the master bedroom and an adjacent guest room, installing specialized acoustic panels and small, nearly invisible resonant chambers, ostensibly to enhance soundproofing and audio clarity. Now, I merely needed to fine-tune them. Under the guise of minor structural checks and insulation upgrades, I made a series of minute adjustments. The effect was insidious. When Sarah was alone in our bedroom, particularly in the quiet of the night, certain external sounds, traffic noise, a distant siren, even the rustle of leaves outside, would be subtly amplified, then distorted by these hidden chambers. They would manifest as faint, indistinct whispers, just at the edge of hearing, always seeming to emanate from the very spot where David would have hidden, or perhaps from the empty guest room next door. It wasn't loud enough to be undeniable, just enough to sow doubt, to make her question her own sanity. I would watch her at breakfast, her eyes tired, a faint tremor in her hand as she reached for her coffee. She'd mention strange noises, echoes. I'd nod, feigning concern, suggesting she was stressed, working too hard. The house was already turning on her, subtly, imperceptibly. Then came the shifting mosaic. The main living area, the heart of our entertaining space, featured a custom-designed floor mosaic, a beautiful, abstract pattern of natural stone and reclaimed wood. I had designed its underlying subfloor system with a unique modular construction, a technique I had developed for maximum flexibility and minimal material waste, I had told her. The truth was, I had built in a calibrated system of hydraulic microjacks beneath certain sections. With a series of remote adjustments, which I could control from my office, from my phone, I began to induce imperceptibly slow, minute movements in specific tile sections. Over the next few months, the beautiful abstract patterns began to subtly, almost imperceptibly distort. It started with a slight misalignment here, a barely noticeable shift there. Sarah, with her keen eye for design, was the first to notice. She'd crouched down, tracing the lines with her finger, convinced her eyes were playing tricks on her. "It looks different, Mark," she'd say. "The lines, they feel wrong." I'd attribute it to light, to perception, to the natural settling of the house. But the shifts continued. Slowly, painstakingly, as the microjacks worked their magic, the abstract pattern began to resolve itself. When viewed from a specific vantage point, the formal dining table where she hosted her elite gatherings, where David had often sat as a guest, the shifting lines would gradually, agonizingly form. It began as a blur, then a faint outline, and finally a stylized image. A distorted, intertwined silhouette, the initial D unmistakably emerging from the abstract lines. It was there, for anyone discerning enough to see, a silent accusation blooming on her perfect floor. I watched her friends, her clients, their polite smiles falter as they glanced down, then quickly up, as if suddenly understanding a cruel joke they weren't meant to be in on. The whispers would begin, not from the walls this time, but from the mouths of her closest confidants. The final stroke, the crescendo of my architectural symphony of despair, was the illuminated truth. In the grand entrance foyer, a prominent, seemingly abstract art installation, composed of polished steel and frosted glass, stretched from floor to ceiling. I had designed it to capture and refract natural light, creating ever-shifting patterns on the opposite wall. What no one knew was that within its complex structure, I had meticulously embedded a series of nearly invisible light conduits and hidden reflective surfaces. These were specifically calibrated to align, to activate, to project only under very precise conditions of natural light. Conditions tied to specific dates. Dates like her birthday, which was also the anniversary of their first secret meeting. Or David's birthday, the date of her greatest betrayal. On these specific days, as the sun crossed a particular angle in the sky, a beam of light would perfectly strike a hidden prism, casting a subtle, shifting image onto the pristine white wall of the foyer. It was never a clear image, always distorted, ethereal, a play of light and shadow. But it was always recognizable to anyone who knew the truth, and soon to anyone who had heard the whispers. A faint silhouette of two intertwined figures momentarily appearing, then dissolving. Or a distorted, elongated shadow that unmistakably resembled David's profile, his hand seeming to reach out towards her, projected onto the wall right as she greeted her most important clients, her most influential friends. I remember one particular evening. It was her annual charity gala, the house filled with the city's elite, every surface gleaming, every face smiling. Sarah was radiant, circulating, her perfect façade fully intact. As the sun set, casting long shadows, the illuminated truth activated. A faint, almost ghost-like image shimmered on the foyer wall, a silhouette that mirrored the intertwined figures from her mosaic. A few guests stopped, their conversations trailing off. One of Sarah's closest friends, a woman who had often praised her perfect marriage, pointed, her voice a hushed whisper. Sarah saw it too. Her eyes widened, her smile froze, shattered. She tried to dismiss it, to laugh it off as a trick of the light, but the image lingered, a silent, public accusation. The air thickened, the polite murmurs transforming into knowing glances. Her carefully curated world, her pristine image, was dissolving before her very eyes, exposed by the very structure I had built for her, with her. I watched it all, from a detached distance. Each tremor in her voice, each desperate attempt to explain away the inexplicable, each shift in her carefully constructed reality. The house, my house, her undoing. It was a slow, agonizing process for her, but for me, it was a profound, chilling satisfaction. I had built her dream, and then I had made it her nightmare. The house stood, outwardly unchanged, yet it was a living, breathing testament to her lies, a silent scream of betrayal. I didn't get my rage back. I found something colder, something more enduring. I found a strange, unsettling peace in the precision of my revenge. The house, our monument to love, became a monument to ruin, her ruin, a public stage for her unraveling. And I, its architect, simply watched the walls whisper, the mosaic shift, and the light reveal.